episode 4 of Calm Before the Roar. I'm Chad Mazikian. As you can see, I'm missing my co-host, Zach the Boss Man Barrick today. Unfortunately, our schedules just did not meet up this week. He was busy a couple days. We tried doing it earlier this week. I was busy this weekend, or a little bit busier this weekend. And then Easter, obviously, being today. We just agreed that we were just going to throw something small together. He was just going to have me record because our availabilities don't meet again until sometime later this week or next weekend. So we wanted to get a little bit of content out to you guys before too long. You know, it's been almost 2 weeks since our last episode, so didn't want to fall too much behind in the game. And so here we go. Obviously, last episode, we talked a lot about the Lions on defense, their defensive side of the ball, kind of their needs, guys we're looking at in the draft, things like that. One update with the Lions is they did sign free agent safety Deshaun Elliott from the Baltimore Ravens on a one-year deal. He's had a very solid start to his career in terms of what he's been able to do when healthy. The problem is he hasn't been healthy. So it's kind of similar to the Chark signing, that when he's on the field, we know he's pretty solid. He makes plays and stuff like that. But the big thing is his availability. Is he going to be able to stay on the field for a full season? He did play a 16 game, all 16 games in 2020. And I want to pull up his stats here, where he did have hit an interception last season, played in all 20 games in 2020, did not record an interception, and then was a part-time starter in 2019 for the Ravens. So he's a physical safety. He likes to come up and hit, make contact. He's not afraid to turn down anyone. There's a clip that's been out there circulating around of him taking down Derrick Henry on one-on-one, him coming downhill on Derrick Henry, which not a lot of people are able to do. So it's just going to be a matter of him staying healthy. I think he probably is going to get a lot of playing time. He probably starts the season as a starter next to Tracy Walker. I still expect the Lions to take a safety early in the draft. These guys it's a strong safety class, and Elliott's only under contract for 1 year, and that's if he stays healthy as well. So it's kind of a gamble Holmes took, like he did on Chark. He's not as expensive as Chark, but these are guys that have had success when on the field and just haven't been able to stay healthy on their rookie deals. So we'll see what happens there. I like to sign a lot. He's a guy that was on my radar for quite a bit of time this offseason. I thought he was a good fit for Detroit, and I think Detroit's going to want to use a lot of three safety packages this season. Aaron Glenn seems to like that, so that's another reason I don't rule out safety early in the draft. I don't know if they go Kyle Hamilton at 2. I wouldn't. But I think Jaquan Brisker, Lewis Sign, Daxton Hill, all guys that can get around 32 or 34 and play. Petrie out of Baylor is an interesting option at 34 or 66. Obviously, these are the picks they hold now. If they trade, everything can, change in terms of where they're picking. But I think there's a strong safety class this year, and I think the Lions will definitely take advantage of that early on. But let's get into the offensive side of the ball. That's the big thing we didn't talk about so far on this podcast. The offense as it stands, just a quick overview. The Lions are definitely stronger on this side of the ball. The offensive line is very strong. If they can, hopefully it's a healthy unit this year and we get to see all 5 of them at the same time. We did not get to see that last year. Decker was out to start the season. Frank Ragnow eventually got hurt. Decker came back, but by the time he came back, Ragnow was out. Evan Brown did a good job stepping in for Ragnow, but Ragnow is a top 3 center in the league. You just can't replace that when he gets hurt. So I think the offensive line, if healthy, it's definitely a top 10 unit, and it could definitely push to be a top 5 unit in the league. Taylor Decker, Jonah Jackson, Ragnow, Vaitai, and Penny Sewell. That's your left to right starting offensive line. The receiving core, definitely the biggest question mark of the offseason. Amon-Ra St. Brown stepped up big time last year, especially in the second half of the season. Ended the year with 900 something receiving yards. I don't have it on top of my head. Don't want to give false information, but I know he's in the nines. He was close to 1,000. DJ Chark was signed, so those are probably your starting 2 receivers. When there's 2 receivers on the field, Chark and St. Brown. Guys behind them, you still got Quintez Cephas under contract. He's probably on the bubble of making the team. You got Trinity Benson, who that coaching staff or front office seems to be much higher on than anyone else is. I would say he should be cut by the time the season rolls around, but we don't know. They'd re-sign Khalif Raymond and Josh Reynolds. So those guys will definitely mix in on playing time. Khalif Raymond's probably your returner for kicks and punts, as well as a gadget slot guy, quick guy that can get the ball to. And Josh Reynolds came in and made some noise in the second half of last season. Obviously has chemistry with Goff before they both landed in Detroit together. So I think the receiving core, it's definitely a little bit improved from last year with the addition of Chark. But there's still some work to do in my opinion. I think you got a lot of solid 2s or 3s on that team or on this roster right now. Barrick's a little bit higher on it, as he said a little bit in the past, but I think Chark has the potential to be a 1, but obviously it's gonna come down again if he stays healthy, which no one can predict. Obviously, if he's healthy, we know he's pretty versatile, pretty dynamic playmaker, and St. Brown definitely showed what he can do last year. So I think the Lions should definitely look to add to that with one of their first 3 picks as well, a deep receiver class. There are some receivers later in the draft too, so I'm not gonna be mad if they don't take one in the first 3 picks or so, but there's a lot of guys, and if one of them falls to 32, I could see the Lions pulling the trigger on that. Tight ends, definitely need a tight end too. Hawkinson, very solid tight end, starting tight end, but they're going to pick up his 5th-year option, but he'll be a free agent after next season, so in case you're not able to re-sign him, you definitely need to get a tight end in here, and really the tight end 2 spot's wide open. You need to Campbell shows he likes to run the ball, which requires 2 tight ends. You want to have 2 tight end sets. They like to use them in the passing game, so you definitely want to get another guy in here who can be a weapon. That spot's pretty vacant right now. Quarterback, it's going to be the same group as last year. I do not see them drafting one. You got Jared Goff coming in as the starter again. David Blau and Tim Boyle were both re-signed early in the offseason. I don't think re-signing those guys deters them from drafting a quarterback if that's what they really want to do. But I feel like if they were going to draft a quarterback or a quarterback of significance, they would not have re-signed one or both of those guys immediately because no one's going to take David Blau, and I doubt anyone's really going to jump on Tim Boyle early in the offseason either. So I just think they played their hand a little bit there to show, and they've obviously showed their confidence in Goff as well. Nothing crazy there. No smoke screens. Goff's your starter for 2022. I think it's his prove-it year this year. They're going to give him a couple more weapons. It's going to be a better team, and he's going to show if he can be an answer longer than or in the future past 2022. And then running backs. I think running backs is a strong unit right now. You got DeAndre Swift, Jamal Williams, Craig Reynolds, the rookie out of Oregon State from last year. His name escapes me right now. DeAndre Swift is one of the most dynamic playmakers in football when he's healthy, in my opinion. He can catch the ball in the backfield. He's pretty shifty. Can run between the tackles. Can run outside. He's a good running back. Just the key is again staying healthy. I don't know if he's a full season kind of guy. He seems to get banged up every now and then. Which running back, it's tough. The league plays running back by committee now, and most teams do. Jamal Williams is a great second punch to DeAndre Swift as he can, he's a little more physical up the middle, harder to take down. Love his leadership off the field, in the locker room, things like that. Do I see the Lions drafting a running back? I don't think they do high. I would not be surprised if they take one on day 3 at some point. I'm big on Hassan Haskins out of Michigan. I think he really complements DeAndre Swift well. I know there's fans in the area that want him to take Kenneth Walker. Breece Hall's another one. Running back to me is such a luxury position in the NFL, and it's definitely a position that can help you get over the top. But I think you have to have a better roster to take advantage of that. I think the Lions have so many holes in their roster that taking a running back is just too much of a luxury right now. To do that on day 1 or 2. Again, running back on day 3, I'm not going to get upset about. You can find good running backs on day 3. I just think spending a high draft capital on a running back early, especially in this year's draft, where the Lions are at right now, it's not the move. Teams that can look at a running back that can really put them over the top, I think one is the Buffalo Bills come to mind. Kenneth Walker to the Bills seems like it'd be crazy good. That one would not surprise me at all. But it shows you what a running back can do. It's kind of like Tampa not last year, 2 years ago when they went on the Super Bowl run. They got Leonard Fournette, and he really took him over the top. I know it's different than a draft, and Fournette had proven himself in the league, but it goes to my point of teams have to be closer to being ready to win or closer to having a complete roster to add that running back to take them over the top rather than add the running back now, especially when the running back room on the Lions is probably one of the top position groups that doesn't necessarily need to be addressed compared to others right now. But yeah, that's where we're at with the offensive side of the ball as it stands right now. Now, guys, I'm looking at in the draft. What does the offense need most this year from the draft? I think there's two positions that you could argue, and I think it's either a tight end, but later in the draft because I think it's tight end too, because you're going to be like, oh, we got Hawk, Kind of what I said earlier. There's no tight end too. The Lions need two tight ends for the offense they run. I'm not saying they need two stud tight ends. Now, that'd be cool, obviously, if you can get like a Rob Gronkowski, Cameron Brate thing going, or Gerald Everett, Tyler Higbee like the Rams had a couple of years ago. Dallas Goedert and Zach Ertz like the Eagles a couple years ago. That's always fun. But you don't know if that's going to be something that they jump on early. And I don't know if there's a dominant tight end to take that, in the first two rounds. I think the soonest I would start looking at a tight end is round 3. I like Isaiah Likely. I like Derlich out of UCLA. The kid out of Colorado State, whose name escapes me at the moment, is a nice, solid option, in my opinion. But yeah, these are Jeremy Ruckert out of Ohio State. I think these are all guys that can complement Hawk well. And I think, Hawk's, he's good, he's athletic, things like that. But I think if you can maybe even complement it with a Greg Dulcich out of UCLA who's got a little bit of speed to him, that way your tight ends are a little diverse. I think that's a big need for the offense. And the other one that I wanted to talk about was receiver, obviously. Like I said before, Chark brings what they've been missing, a tall, fast receiver that can burn you deep. I like Christian Watson. I think he would be nice to add to this offense, although I think the biggest need for this offense right now is a big-bodied target in the red zone from receiver. So while Chark is tall and fast, he's not necessarily built. He's not a big-bodied guy per se. Neither is Christian Watson. So that's where you kind of start looking at guys like George Pickens. He's pretty well built. He makes plays. He's had some injury history in college, but he is definitely a guy that can come in and hopefully be that big body receiver that can kind of box out corners, be that go-to guy in the red zone, especially in situations where you kind of need a play made. And it would just make the offense more versatile. You got, then you'd have Chark, tall and fast. You'd have St. Brown, shifty, smaller slot guy, Hawkinson, the big tight end, and then a bigger receiver that can make plays on the outside like Pickens. But if Watson's there, that intrigues me a lot because I like speed. I think the Lions have lacked a lot of speed, especially at the receiver position for a few years now. Marvin Jones and Kenny Galladay were not burners by any means. They just were really good at making contested catches. Lions have been lacking speed, and I think the more speed you can have on offense, the better that offense, the more versatile that offense can be. Now, a sleeper I look at on the offensive side of the ball is Isaiah Weston out of University of Northern Iowa. He's a smaller slot guy, but he's graded crazy. Let me pull it up here. My apologies, my window closed that had his stats. So as we pull these up here, but yeah, not a shifty guy. He's a 6'4", 210-pound junior out of Northern Iowa. This past year, he had 883 yards on 37 receptions. He had 43 catches for 1,053 yards back in 2019. His 2020 season, I believe, got cut short to injury. He only had 7 catches for 152 yards. He had 10 touchdowns in 2019, that 1,053-yard year, and then he had 5 touchdowns on the this past season, 2021. Now, what's crazy is his production compared to his catches, right? His average per catch was 23.9 yards in 2021, 21.7 in a short time in 2020, and 24.5 in his 1,000-yard season in 2019. Isaiah Weston is a big play receiver. He's got good speed. He's got good size at 6'4", 210 pounds. This is a guy that I think could be that sleeper in the sixth round or so. Maybe pops up draft boards a little bit, but he's a day 3 target. And you know how Holmes is with his receivers. He likes to find those guys on day 3. Cooper Kupp with the Rams. Amon-Ra St. Brown last year with the Lions. So I would not be surprised if Isaiah Weston is on the Lions' radar on day 3. I think his Ross score graded out at like 9.94 or 9.96. So he's very elite at the position in terms of grading out. I know that doesn't mean everything. Football players got to be able to just play football at the end of the day. But this guy is a big play machine. That may be able to develop into more, but again, the Lions need that big playability. Chark on one side, Isaiah Weston on the other. You got Amon-Ra St. Brown, Reynolds, possibly Cephas moving in and out. These are big. This adds a big play element to the offense that they need and they've been lacking. I know to speak for Barrick, he's been big on Jalen Naylor. I like that a lot too. Out of Michigan State, he's a speedster. Another big play threat on the outside, a guy you can probably get in the sixth or 7th round on day 3 of the draft. And that's not being a Spartan homer for Barrick, because I like it a lot too. I think he makes really good points with his ability to go get the ball and have a quarterback that can hit him consistently. And things like that. So I think Naylor, if he got drafted, he would have a really good chance at making the roster as well. Of course, Weston, Naylor, these guys, they might not be day 1 starters. They might just be contributors, have a couple plays designed for them, shot plays, things like that. And then eventually as the season goes on, they get more playing time if they prove they deserve it, making plays and things like that. And they might be guys that don't really, take effect until next year. That's the thing about finding sleepers, right? Sleepers don't always catch fire right away. Sometimes it takes a year or two, and then you're like, whoa, who's this guy? He came out of nowhere. He's fantastic. Kind of like Quandre Diggs a few years ago for the Lions, safety out of Texas, 6th-round draft pick for Martin Mayhew. First year too. He was a solid player, but he didn't really jump out on the scene, and now he's one of the better safeties in the league. He was really solid for Detroit until Patricia and Quinn stupidly got rid of him, and he's been really good for Seattle ever since. So these are guys I'm looking forward to watching where they fall in the draft, things the Lions could really look at as they move forward. I'm sure some of these guys are on Holmes' radar. And then just to talk about our mock drafts a little bit, we did post our mock drafts on Facebook. I think it was this past Thursday. Zach went with Kayvon Thibodeau at 2, Daxton Hill at 32, Christian Watson at 34, and linebacker Christian Harris out of Alabama at 66. All solid picks, all huge needs for the Lions. I really like Daxton Hill because he's very versatile. He can play safety, he can play nickel corner. You can use him in a lot of ways, and I think the Lions and Aaron Glenn value that a lot. And then Christian Watson, I've said it all offseason, he's one of my dream targets for the Lions. And then Thibodeau, I think him and Hutch are like 1A, 1B, but I think Thibodeau has the higher ceiling. I would love that pick at 2. In my mock draft, I actually traded out of 2 with Seattle. The trade details, you can see them all on there, but basically the gist of it, Seattle got pick 2 and a 6th-round pick and Detroit got number 9, a 2nd-round pick, a 4th-round pick, and then next year's 1st and 3rd-round picks from Seattle. With that, I took edge rusher Jermaine Johnson out of Florida State. I think he's the 3rd best pass rusher in the draft. Trayvon Walker might be a better all-around edge player in terms of stopping the run, but I think Jermaine Johnson, as a pure pass rusher, from a pure pass rusher standpoint, is probably the 3rd best pass rusher in the draft behind Thibodeau and Hutch. I went with Watson at 32 and Daxton Hill at 34. So me and Barrick were flipped on that, but both were taking the same players. At 41, with that 2nd-round pick from Seattle, I took Jaquan Brisker, the safety out of Penn State, and I did that. I did this before the Lions signed Deshaun Elliott, so that could change, but I don't think that signing, like I said earlier, tears this too much. The Lions want a lot of safeties. They like 3 safety sets, and I think adding 2 playmakers like Brisker and Hill makes a lot of sense, especially since Hill can play nickel corner as well as safety. So, Brisker and Tracy could be. I viewed it as Brisker and Tracy could be. Walker could be those starting safeties, and then Hill's kind of that versatile guy that kind of floats around from that third safety to that nickel corner, slot corner, wherever they kind of need him, and that's where they go. At 66, I took linebacker Chad Muma out of Wyoming. Very athletic linebacker, very fast. Athleticism, again, something the Lions have lacked on defense, in my opinion, for a while, especially at the linebacker position. And then lastly, at 97, I took Greg Dulich, the tight end out of UCLA. I mentioned a little bit earlier. Built nicely, got some good speed and athleticism, can make plays, and then he's one of the higher ranked tight ends in the draft. So that's kind of how mine and Bears compare. If you want to see the rest of the mock drafts and kind of compare them, they can be found on our Facebook page. Not too far down the page. So feel free to comment on them. We love when people give feedback on the stuff we post, especially mock drafts, because obviously those are very opinionated pieces. And some people like them, some people hate them. So we like to get discussion started. So if you ever get a chance to get on there and talk to drop a comment, things like that, we'd love to talk about comments on the show as well. So that'll wrap up Lions talk for this week. Obviously we'll get in a little more depth when the boss man is back and we can kind of have some back and forth. Let's get into Tigers though. Detroit Tigers opening day. Happened a little over a week ago now. Javi Baez with the crazy game winner off the wall, right? Got reviewed. At first it was initially out, but then reviewed it was off the wall, and the Tigers had a walk-off win against the White Sox. Went on to lose the series 1-2. So started off 1-2, then won the series opener against Boston. Lost 2 after that, so lost the series to Boston, sitting at 2-4, and now they've played 3 against Kansas City. Got the 4th game coming to a close today in the series. And the Tigers are sitting at 4-5 after their loss last night. They did get back to 4-4 after winning the first 2 in Kansas City. Lost 3-1 last night, and they will look to win the series today. Get their first series win of 2022. Big as it's a divisional opponent, so that's always a big accomplishment. Good way to start the season. Actually, just breaking news: the Tigers and Royals were postponed, so must be some weather out there today. We'll see if when that gets rescheduled, but the Tigers will be off today, apparently. So we will not know. They'll play the Yankees, I believe, on Tuesday. I think tomorrow is a scheduled off day for the Tigers, and then Tuesday they open up against the Yankees. But let's get into a little bit more of Baez and Meadows, the 2 big acquisitions. Meadows, that big trade late in the spring training. He was huge for the Tigers in opening day as well. 2-hit, 2-walk performance. He had the game-winning run scored as he got on base right before Baez. And Meadows is leading the team in batting average right now. Last I checked, he's batting .460-something. So a hot start to the season. Didn't play yesterday. Lefty starting pitcher for Kansas City. Obviously not playing today either as the game is postponed. But him and Baez has been ripping the ball. Unfortunately, Baez sustained a thumb injury, and he's on the 10-day IL. Reverted back to April 13th when he last played, so he will be eligible, I believe, to return at the end of this week if his thumb is healed up and all that. But unfortunately, injuries are stacking up for the Tigers right now. You got Baez, who's put on IL. Mize, after his second start, got put on the IL with right elbow soreness, I believe it was categorized as. Matt Manning in his game last night against the Royals was pulled due to shoulder discomfort. And then you already got guys missing like Chafin, one of their free agent acquisitions, a really good reliever for the bullpen. The bullpen's looking a little in shambles right now. So we'll see what happens in terms of how fast these guys can bounce back. I think Chafin's expected to be back shortly. Grossman came back. He never got placed on the IL, but missed a couple games with a sore hamstring or something like that. It was some sort of leg injury. Slow start for the big 3 pitchers so far. I'll scratch that a little bit in terms of Rodriguez, definitely a slow start. He kind of got hammered on opening day, hammered by Boston a little bit. Mize definitely better damage control in his second start. Still wasn't great. Really struggling to have that strikeout pitch right now. As the weather warms up a little bit, I expect him to get better, and maybe that arm soreness had a little bit to do with that. Did not look as crisp as he did in spring training. So Scooble had a rough first outing against the White Sox, but he did bounce back nicely against the Royals with 7 strikeouts across 5 2/3. So that's encouraging, especially since Scooble, I think, had the best spring training of all the starting pitchers. He was laying it up down there. So through 2 starts, he bounced back in the second start, which is good. Going back to Matt Manning, he had a fantastic start in his first outing. Went 6 innings strong, only gave up 1 run. And Tyler Alexander, again, in his first start, had a really strong outing. Unfortunately, fell off a little bit at the end, gave up a run. I think was tagged with 2. I think they got 1 more off the relief pitcher that was on base from Alexander. But pretty impressive through 5 innings for him. And he was going to get the start today, so he might get pushed to Tuesday now in the series opener against the Yankees. But the big thing with pitching right now is it's these guys, short spring training, colder weather right now. There's a lot of factors, rust to shake off per se. Let's give these guys a chance to catch their mojo again. There's only, how do I want to say it? It's been like, give them a month. Let's see where this team is in a month, right? If this team is not looking good by the end of April, first, after a weekend of May or something, and these pitchers are still struggling, then the alarms will start to, go off a little bit. And it's like, okay, what's going on here? Why are these guys digressing from last year? Why are they struggling so much? Let's let them catch their breath, get a couple starts under them, see things like that. Same with the Tigers hitting wise. Their lineup's very inconsistent right now. A lot of guys are in a slump. It's April. It's early. We're 9 games into this thing, sitting at 4-5. If you can get out April around 500, get into May around 500, you can't win the division in April or May, but you can certainly lose it, right? Just keep winning, stay around 500, things like that, and things will eventually come. This team has a solid roster, and it will spark up sooner rather than later. I truly believe that. Lastly, Miggy's closing on 3,000 hits. I think he's 5 away at this point. I think he got the 2,995. He had a 2 or 3 hit game in Kansas City in the first game. I know he had another hit in the second game. I think he had a hit last night. So he loves Kauffman Stadium. Just bottom line, he bats like I think 390 as a career in Kauffman Stadium where the Royals play. And I'm excited he didn't get it because the Tigers are coming back, I think, for 6 games now. I think they play the Yankees and then the Rockies in a 2-home series. I hope he gets it at home. It was kind of disappointing that he didn't get his 500th home run at home last year. So it will be really nice. It would be really nice for the fans and just Miggy in general, for Detroit in general, to see that history take place. In Detroit at Comerica Park, and it'd be really cool if it's against the Yankees because no one likes the Yankees. And then Miggy's next double will be his 600th career double. He sits at 599 right now. So exciting times, for Miggy in his career. And then obviously we can match that with hopefully the Tigers trending upward. Get Baez back in the lineup. Get the bats going a little bit more. I think he's definitely the spine to this book, or however you want to put the analogy together. He's going to hold this team together. He is the nucleus of the team now. I think he's the leader. He's shown a lot of passion. He's obviously got one of the hotter bats on the team, him and Meadows. So the Tigers cannot wait for him to get back. It'll be good when he does. So we look forward to Tigers baseball coming up Tuesday, I guess, and we'll check in again on how they're doing and how some of these next pitching outings go, and if any guys have warmed up when we get to the next episode this upcoming weekend. Last thing I wanted to talk about, I'm not going to get too much into this because I know this is a topic close to Barrick's heart, which is the Pistons season came to an end, finished with a 29-53 record. They have a top 3 lottery odds, so they have the best odds to end up with the first, second, or third pick in the draft, which would be huge if they can match a top pick like that with Cade Cunningham. Obviously, had the first pick in the draft last year. They also have the most cap space in the NBA coming up this offseason, so they should have options to add free agent talent where they believe they need it most on the roster. But I think the biggest thing we can take from this season is the flashes we saw. The foundation looks like it's in place. Cunningham, Bay look like a really solid 1-2 foundation right now. If you can add that big free agent or that big draft piece, I think it really rounds out the roster well. The Marvin Bagley trade was a huge addition. Bagley played his best basketball of his career so far in the NBA in the second half of the season with the Pistons. So we'll cover the Pistons a little more in the next episode because I know that's one of the big things Barrick has been wanting to talk about. So I don't want to take all the thunder on that topic here, but just wanted to lay it out that we'll be talking about that in the future, and we look forward to the lottery odds, and the NBA playoffs in general are usually pretty fun, especially after the first round. So we'll talk more NBA coming up in future episodes, more Pistons coming up in future episodes. There will be no Barracks Banter today, obviously, missing piece, but I will give you a little bit of a Motor City Minute, and the one thing that I could come up with that I was kind of frustrated with this week were the Tigers' injuries. Like Riley Green got hurt right before the season started in spring training. Andrew Chafin, one of the better relief pitchers in baseball last year with the Cubs. We signed him as a free agent. He's hurt right now. Should be back soon, though. Grossman got hurt and not pulled his hamstring, but had hamstring soreness or thigh soreness, something like that, and missed a couple games. He just came back last night. Baez put on the IL. Mize put on the IL. Manning missing his or getting cut early from his start last night. Why does it always happen to the Detroit teams? I mean, I feel like this Tigers team, we got all excited. We're like, yeah, Riley Green's going to make the roster. Torkelson's in the roster, and congratulations to Torkelson, actually, for hitting that 2-run bomb against Kansas City to get the win a couple nights ago. That was awesome to see that, so he's got 2 home runs on the year. But back to this. Injuries are pissing me off. I mean, it just feels so much Detroit's luck when we have something good finally going for us, or some sort of hope that we get hammered with the nail of doom, and our best player, our best free agent gets hurt, has a thumb injury and gets hurt, and now he's on the IL. Our prized pitching prospect Casey Mize is on the IL now, and it's just like, we just want to see these guys play together. We want to start the season on a good note. And even though we're sitting at 4-5, it's not awful. It's not great. You just feel like there's so much more left to be desired. And you know what? Hopefully we're getting the injuries out of the way early. Hopefully as the season goes on, we're not plagued by the injury bug too much. And, most of our roster's healthy and playing. But man, it's so frustrating. The Tigers are the first team in the city to really show that they could turn things around. As we all know, all 4 sports teams are pretty bad right now. The Red Wings started off all right, but they're still a year or 2 away from truly competing. The Pistons are probably at least another year away from truly competing. The Lions, another year or 2 from competing. They did a full-blown rebuild. The Tigers have been in a full-blown rebuild since 2015, it seems like. And, they finally decided to buy this offseason and, add some talent to their young core they had drafted through and gotten down into the pipeline for prospects. And all of it seemed like it was going to be coming together this year. And even though we knew we're not likely going to be like a big playoff team this year, we felt like for the first time in 4 or 5 years, the Tigers were going to compete for a playoff spot. They still may. I'm not saying the season's over. These guys will be back. They don't appear to be long-term injuries. Riley Green is the only one that's going to miss multiple months with the broken foot. But it's frustrating. We want to see these guys play right now. We want this team. We want to see what this team is when it's at full strength. And usually at the beginning of the year is the best time to see that. Not in this case. Hopefully soon they're back. That would be very fun for the fans, fun for the team, because I think once AJ Hinch has all his chess pieces, I think this team is not going to be easy to beat. Again, I'm not saying they're going to go out, win the division, win 95 games, but I do think they're going to compete for one of the wild card spots, whether they're one of the first teams out or one of the last teams in the playoffs. It's going to be fun for Detroit to finally get that playoff taste, that meaningful sports taste in their mouth. Not, oh man, we're only 2/3 of the way through the season and we're already eliminated. Like, I think the Tigers are going to be entertaining all year. It'd be nice to get these guys back from injuries, but that's my motor statement because that's kind of what's been bothering me this week. It's just a little bit of frustration. Like, come on, can we just catch a break for once? But that'll be it for episode 4 today. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Appreciate the support as always. Again, you can follow us on Facebook. We're now on Spotify for podcasts. You can find us on Spotify, Samsung, Podbean. We'll post the YouTube link, obviously. If you watch on YouTube, please subscribe. It helps us grow our channel. We do this for fun, but it would be nice for it to get a little bit of a following and, have some more interaction with our listeners. Will make it a lot more fun. Eventually, we'll start doing some live podcasts on Facebook. That way you can interact as we're talking and discussing our points, and you can join the debates and all that. But again, drop us a like and follow on Facebook if you haven't. Feel free to share the podcast, things like that. But we appreciate the support as always. Tune in next time for episode 5. We'll have the Boss Man back. We look forward to it. I hope you guys have a great and happy Easter, and go Tigers.